courts and judicial institutions. The civil registration, which is in third column, as already outlined, has the basic principles that it is compulsory, universal, confidential, continuous, permanent, and confidential. And the civil registration would then transmit the information to the population register. So the major point here is the establishment of the functioning population registers. The population registers would then submit the information to the identity management systems that would then provide the legal identity credentials with biometrics at the time when the legal framework of the country indicates it should be done. So whether it is at age 16 or age 18 or any other age, depending on the legislation of the country, the legal identity credential with biometrics would then be issued by the legal identity authority. And then on top, you will see that the civil registration transmits the information to the National Statistical Service that produces regular, comprehensive vital statistics, and those vital statistics are the key element for not only the developing the estimates of population, but also of better understanding of the dynamics of the demographic trends in a given country. And then, of course, at the right bottom there, you will have a different set of administrative records, which are the registers, which are the tax registers, educational, employment registers, and so on and so forth, which are critical in terms of building up the capacity of the country to generate small area statistics out of administrative sources. So what is the point of this model? The point is that the UN is now calling on all the countries, all the areas, to implement this model of a holistic approach to civil registration, vital statistics, and identity management in their interoperational manner to ensure that the legal identity that is vested to an individual by birth with a birth certificate and is retired by a death certificate is really being available to all the individuals in the country from birth to death, therefore enabling access to services, therefore making sure the exercise of the basic human rights. Go ahead, Gloria.
I think you have spoken to this, Sajjan. I can move on to the next slide.
Yes, go ahead. So this is when we look at the national practices, and there is a compendium. You will see at the end of the presentation, there will be a list of resources and references that we have used for putting together all of these presentations. And there are a number of countries that have implemented this UN legal identity agenda approach within their own circumstances. And there are, of course, variations. There are different ways that the countries approach based on their own traditions, based on their own administrative structures, based on their own civil service functions. They implemented the holistic approach to civil registration and vital statistics. What you have here in front of you is the first example, which is Armenia. Armenia, as you can see, the vital events are there. The vital events are reported by the hospitals, and then the marriages are reported by the Ministry of Justice, and the adoption and divorces by the courts. All of those, as per the previous graph as well, are being transmitted to the civil register, which is located in the Ministry of Justice, as you can see, which is the fourth row here. From there on, from the civil register, the population register is being fed, and that is maintained by the police. At the same time, simultaneously, the information is transmitted to the National Statistical Office for the production of vital statistics. So in this specific case of Armenia, what we are having is that one institution, which is the civil register under the Ministry of Justice, is actually coordinating in an interoperable manner all of the components, which is the civil registration, which is vital statistics, which is the identity management to the population registers. Very similar, the next example is the example of Peru. And here you will see that it is pretty much the same approach with some differences given the peculiarities of the administrative setting of a given country. So the point is that we are illustrating that this implementation of the UN model takes different shapes depending on how the countries is organized in terms of administration, in terms of civil service, in terms of the other cultural traditions that are being present in the country. So here we have the vital events, and the vital events are again the same, but then the informants are different. Then in the case of Armenia, you will have the judicial authorities, you will have the health facilities, but you will also have the municipal civil registration authorities. And then we are now having, in most of Latin America, this is the model that has been applied there in both Peru, Chile, and quite of other countries, Costa Rica, Colombia as well, where you have the National Registry of Indication and Civil State, which is here called RENIEC, which is a new institution, new agency that actually consolidates all of those inputs under its own authority. And from there, you will see that you have first on the left, you have the identity management, which is the biometrics with the photograph and ID number. So this is identity management. Then you have the civil registration database, which is again the biographical information, as well as the assignment of the unified identification number. And then you have again a link to the production of vital statistics. So this is again an example of pretty much the same logic and the same principles that the UN is advocating to be implemented by all the countries, with a different twist depending again on the administrative setup of a given country. So we have presented first the need to make sure that there is a holistic approach, that those simultaneous implementation of civil registration, vital statistics, and identity management are leading the process of enhancing the situation of allowing a legal identity for all as per the requirements of the UN's Sustainable Development Agenda. And then with these two examples for Armenia and Peru that are highly successful in both ensuring the universal registration of all vital events, production of vital statistics, as well as assigning of legal identity to all from birth to death. And those variations, depending on the way that those countries are organized, are actually documenting the ways by which all of the member states, all of the countries should approach the implementation of the UN legal identity agenda. Go ahead, Gloria.
Right. So just to speak through the key messages that are coming across is that we need a strong CRVS system that registers all events from birth to death to be able to realize the holistic approach to legal identity. And the other components of an identity ecosystem, and here we're talking about the national ID system, the other formats that the government applies to maintain identity should rely on civil registration records as the only source of up-to-date identity data. The third aspect is about digitization, which is very important in terms of ensuring that the systems are interoperable and that they can speak to each other, and ensuring that processes are efficient. The fourth message is that there are important benefits of the holistic approach, and that includes improving service delivery, ensuring people's rights are respected, reducing corruption, and essentially ensuring that no one is left behind. So there are four key elements that are important for us to realize this approach. And the first one is ensuring there is political commitment. We also, of course, require a very robust legal framework to ensure that we are able to maintain a robust identity management ecosystem. And then data privacy and protection is very important. And lastly, the technology that is applied needs to be owned locally by the country. Those are the key messages that we would be advocating through this presentation. So just to speak to some work that the UN Legal Identity Task Force is doing, we may have mentioned before that this concept of legal identity and the holistic approach to legal identity is a new topical area in terms of the CRVS discussions, and the UNLIA's definition of legal identity happened in 2019. So following that work, the Legal Identity Expert Group or task force has moved on to support countries in the implementation of that holistic approach, and presently they have 13 African countries that have been supported to pilot the initiative, and we hope that that will be expanded to other regions and of course including the Pacific. Sajan, would you have some points to add to that?
Just to outline in very brief that the UN Legal Identity Task Force is co-chaired by the United Nations Statistics Division, by UNDP and by UNICEF, and that it consists of additional 15 UN agencies, and that it really shows a commitment of the United Nations to implement this holistic approach in as many countries in the world as possible, by making sure that there are sufficient resources in terms of methodological framework, in terms of the national practices that can be shared, and in terms of the resources that will essentially be like a seed initiative in many countries in order to start tackling those three components, the civil registration, vital statistics, and identity management, in a simultaneous manner. So the UN Legal Identity Agenda, as mentioned, has not been around for a long time, but you will see from the list of references that there are a lot of advice provided to the countries. And as we move on tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, we will go into even more details on how we are actually trying to support the countries in implementing this new model. So the purpose of this the first installment of this first webinar was really just to remind all of us about this new approach that has been put together by the UN as one, and then tomorrow and the day after that we are going to go into really the details of how this model fits and reacts to the impact and the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I will stop here, of course, and then provide at least some time for any kind of comments, questions, and suggestions that you might have.
Colleagues, you're welcome to make any interventions. Or questions.
Hi, Gloria, it's Jeff. I don't have a question or an intervention as such, but I did want to congratulate both you and Surgeon for an excellent webinar and a great opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any other questions, colleagues? Or maybe I could ask, are any of our countries implementing a population register? Do we have any of our countries online that have already moved forward to implementation of a population register? And would you like to share your experience around that? Online, we have Australia, we have CNMI, RMI, we have Cook Islands, we have Niue, Tonga, Vanuatu. I hope I've not missed out on one of yourselves, but feel free to tell us, are you implementing a population register? And if you are, what are your experiences around that? Jeff, are you implementing a population register in New Zealand?
No, we're not, Gloria. We found that when we've worked with our population that they're not supportive of such a heavy level of state control of population data. So the approach we take is more to have a very strong, robust civil registration system and then look at connecting different bits of data to that on a one-off, either one-off occasions or by allowing our citizens to share their data voluntarily with other organisations. So we've taken a different approach. We don't have a population register as such, but we do have data which is connected up when required for government purposes.
Right. What about a national ID system?
No, we don't have a national ID system either. So we do have a voluntary digital ID system called RealMe, but that's an optional system. We have our passports, we have our driver's licenses, we enable parents to share their baby's data electronically between different government agencies, but we don't have a single ID system.
Right, thank you, Jeff. Tonga, do you have a national ID system?
Yeah, we do. We do have a national ID for those who over the age of 18.
Right. Okay, I think I'm basically asking this just to pull our thinking around the implementation of the suggested model in our countries, and particularly the holistic approach, like are our platforms speaking to each other or are they independent? And basically thinking into what is a step forward in terms of ensuring there is that interoperability and communication between platforms. So we will keep it open for comments or questions, and if there is no other, I think we will hope to reconnect with you tomorrow as we speak into the other components of the webinars.
Gloria, I have a comment and a question to you, I guess, and that is getting the balance right between a centralised national ID system and all of the challenges and risks that presents, or the alternative, which is having separate systems across government that connect well. So the approach we've taken in New Zealand is to have systems that connect well. So the civil registration system connects with the immigration system, which connects with the passport system. So there's connections across the systems rather than a single centralised system. Mm-hmm. And the way to achieve that is to make sure that there's consistency in the way that the data is collected and that there's good collaboration between agencies. We've been talking about this within the Pacific Civil Registrars Network for a number of years, and how we get that connection not only within countries but between countries, and how we support our smaller nations in having good online systems when perhaps they don't have the resources in country to support those systems. So my question to you, Gloria, is the connection between this piece of work and the piece of work that you're doing with Plan International around CRVS, Open CRVS, and the webinars you've got coming up for that. I think there's a connection between the two pieces of work.
Yes, Jeff, and thank you for speaking into that. There's actually a very, very big connection between the two. So what we are seeing, and most of you colleagues would have seen that we invited you for a webinar with Plan International that is happening on 3rd of June, which is basically around digitization of CRVS systems. So how that links into the topic that we are talking about here is that in the Pacific for a long time, the Pacific Registrars Network has been discussing about the challenges surrounding the implementation of IT platforms for civil registration. And as most of you will be aware, quite a number of countries are using MS Access databases, Excel databases, and in some cases, some customized civil registration databases for civil registration work. And then we also have an increasing number of countries that are moving towards national ID systems. So the question is, as we talk about this holistic approach towards legal identity, and especially systems being able to be interoperable, do our civil registration platforms allow that level of connectivity between platforms, or do we have a good record management platform that can ensure that our countries employ a holistic approach to civil registration? So what we have seen is that we have found it that ideal for us to start looking at models that we can use to support countries in terms of implementing good, robust IT platforms. And so what SPC is doing in collaboration with PCRN, of course, and with Plan International, is that we are going to be putting forward a program that will support selected or interested Pacific Island countries to, first of all, conduct what we call a proof of concept of the platform known as Open CRVS, and to proceed to and to support them to continue towards implementation. We see value in that approach in the sense that currently every country is using a different platform, and if there are challenges in one country as compared to another, first of all, we are limited in terms of the support we are able to provide, and we are also not certain as to what extent the platforms that are in use in countries allow for this holistic approach that we are talking about, and components like interoperability and so forth and so on. So that piece of work does speak into this piece of work that we are discussing today from the perspective of digitization, interoperability of systems, and promoting that holistic approach to the UN legal identity agenda. And so we are looking forward to engaging with you further on that discussion as well. Jeff, would you like to add to that in terms of PCRN and the challenges around IT systems that you have been discussing over time?
Yes, I think the key benefit, I think, of the Open CRVS system is particularly for our smaller countries, which is the majority of the countries in the Pacific. It does provide a modern system which is cloud-based, just like the systems in Australia and in New Zealand. Cloud-based, are able to be supported offshore if there's any issues with the system, but it can be run in country as well. So the key thing is having some consistency across countries with a modern system, which is backed up offshore. So it gives us that disaster recovery capacity, which is so important in many of our countries. The other key thing is there's training linked to it and support for the registries. And in some of our countries, there's only 3 or 4 people in the registry. So having that backup offshore is really important. So I think they're key components. The other really important thing which we've been talking about amongst civil registrars in the Pacific has been the ability to share data across borders. So we have in place data sharing arrangements between New South Wales and New Zealand and the Cook Islands, and tentatively between New Zealand and Niue, particularly death records. So if someone is born in one of our countries and dies in another, how do we share that death record across countries? And having a common platform like Open CRVS makes that very easy. Of course, the sharing is only ever done if both countries agree to share the information, but it provides a platform to do it. Whereas at the moment, putting records onto data sticks and sending them through diplomatic bags, through embassies, or sending them in an unsecure way through email. So I think the Open CRVS opportunity is very exciting. And I really do encourage everybody to participate in the presentation which is coming up. But I think there's lots of opportunities there for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Any contributions? I think with that, then we will possibly come to the end of our webinar today. We hope that you found it useful to your countries, and certainly we will be sending through the presentation materials that we sent forth. Tomorrow we will have another session, and again on Thursday we'll have another session as per the plan that we shared out, and we encourage you to participate in that and to keep the conversation between registrars going. I think moving forward we will try and make it much more participatory. We'll have some questions that countries can speak to so that we are also able to share experiences between ourselves.
Gloria?
Yes.
Sorry, Gloria, I think the appointments for tomorrow and the next day have dropped out of calendars as well. You may need to resend those.
Right, I will do that. I will do that. So I'll just go through UNSD. Sajan, would you like to make any remarks?
Let me just outline that yes, this is the first attempt of running this kind of set of webinars, focusing on two major issues, which is the first one is the new UN model for the holistic approach, and then the impact on civil registration. So a much narrower, I would say, focus the impact on COVID-19 on the functioning of civil registration. So I'm sure that as we move on tomorrow with the more national examples, especially from the region, with the replies from the survey that we have received, that we will tackle some of the different issues that go beyond the theoretical and modeling to the real life and the impact that all of us have to deal with in this time of pandemic. So hopefully tomorrow and the day after tomorrow we will have a more, I would say, down the earth discussion about the way that we are coping with the current circumstances. So with this, it is evening here in New York, and I know it's the morning in your part of the world. So thank you all very much, and I'm looking forward to continuing this tomorrow. I wish you a good day and a safe one. So thank you and all the best until tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. So we will. I think I want to just take the last few minutes to allow colleagues to say their names and where they were joining from, and then we can call off the call. So I'll just put country to country. Tonga?
Malolele, I'm from Tonga. My name is Enoli Inoke. I'm the Deputy CEO for the Office of the Registrar General. Thank you.
Thank you. Vanuatu? Okay, RMI.
Hello, this is Joy Kawakami from the Child Rights Office, sitting on behalf of the Registrar's Office.
Thank you. Niue?
Flaflahietsu, Numa from the Stats Office.
Thank you, Numa. Cook Highlands?
Kia ora from the Cook Islands. My name is Rimel, and I'm the registrar within the Ministry of Justice. And here with me is Helen Williams, is my senior PDM officer.
Thank you. Thank you, Rimel. CNMI.
Good day, everyone. My name is Will, Vital Statistics Registrar at the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation.
Thank you, Will. Australia? We can't hear you, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda Yana. I'm the Registrar of Births, Deaths and Marriages for New South Wales.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amanda. I can see colleagues that I don't have their meeting ID. So if you've not introduced yourself, please feel free to say hello.
Hi, my name is Alison. I'm the Civil Registrar for Palau.
Thank you, Alison. And okay, well, I think we'll call it a day now. Thank you very much, colleagues, for joining, and we hope you will be able to connect tomorrow for our follow-up series, and we hope for more conversation tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining, and have a good day.